Mr. Nett, I'd like to start with you. You heard Senator Braun speak a moment ago about his bill, S-434. You made reference to it. Senator Braun's proposal is something that I would support because it will help the American taxpayer understand the cost of maintaining this massive federal estate. If the bill advances to markup, I would like to see the legislation amended so as to include Forest Service holdings as well as BLM holdings. Now, Senator Braun mentioned the Congressional Research Service tells us that the total amount of federal land ownership in your respective agencies is not definitively known. I'd like to ask each of you whether you agree with that statement, and if so, why is that the case? We'll start with you, Mr. Ned.
Well, Senator, the BLM, or the Department of Interior, I should say, certainly with the Bureau of Reclamation, the National Park Service, the Fish and Wildlife, and BLM, we do have records that suggest at least closely the land holdings we have. So within the BLM, we have about 245 million acres of land, and every year in our public land statistic, we do publish those lands, including any lands that may have moved out of federal ownership or into ownership. Similarly, the Park Service and the Fish and Wildlife and BOR keeps records.
So would you say that the amount of land under the management of BLM is, in fact, definitively known?
I would say it is known, yes, Senator.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Bim?
Yes. We manage 193 million acres roughly of National Forest System lands, and again, we publish on an annual basis our land status. I believe we know what our land status is. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if I'm understanding you both correctly, you'd be saying that the uncertainty would not be as a result of Forest Service or BLM. It would be through some other federal agency. That's where the uncertainty lies. In other words, what you've both just told me is that the total number of land under your management in your respective agency is definitively known, whereas CRS said the total amount of the federal estate, the total number of acres in the federal estate is not definitively known.
Well, Senator, in my testimony or in my written statement, certainly the department listed in here where they knew what the lands for the Bureau of Reclamation at 7.8 million acres, the lands that is managed within the Fish and Wildlife at 150 million acres. I'm sorry, the Fish and Wildlife at 80 million acres, and the Bureau of Land Management at 7.8, and the BLM at 245. So I think in my statement there's those figures, and I would say the Department of Interior Land Management Agency is aware of the lands they have.
Okay. Mr. Ned, I want to move on to S-1079, Senator Udall's bill. It's a bill that's messaged as protecting Native American cultural resources from horizontal drilling. But within the proposed 1,400 square mile buffer zone, it would set allotments of Navajo tribal members. For some allottees, the mineral development may be a significant source of income in an otherwise economically disadvantaged region. For many, it's certainly a source of employment. So first, I'd like to ask about the purported necessity for this legislation. As part of the regular administrative process for proposed oil and gas leases, isn't the BLM already required by law to consult with tribes and to conduct cultural resource clearances?
Yes, Senator.
And if that's the case, is there really any threat to those resources currently, or anything inadequate about that process that's already in place?
Senator, right now we're going through a land use or a land amendment process, and so we're consulting with the tribe, and at the end of that process, it will reveal if there's any potential impact and how to mitigate it.
Okay. Do you know, does the BLM have any idea how many Navajo allotments might be inside of this proposed 1,400 square mile buffer zone?
Senator, I don't have that information here with me, but I would love to take that back as a question for the record.
Okay. Do you know how tribal allottees and horizontal drilling on allotted lands might be affected by the protection zones and by this legislation that creates them?
Senator, it's my understanding that tribal and allottees would not be affected by this withdrawal. However, there will be challenges given the intermixing of public, tribal, and private land, and of course, the geography of the lands.
You have any idea whether any economic analysis has been done to quantify or in any way estimate the impact the protection zone might have on local jobs, including the impact on the tribal economy?
A social economic would have been done for the plan, but I don't have that information with me here, Senator.
Okay, but you believe one has been done?
To some degree, I would believe, yes, Senator.
Okay.